Hey guys, what's up? All right. Yesterday I posted a poll in the group to see um, what you wanted to know most about when it comes to weight loss in perimenopause. And so there was two things you guys were interested in. And I'm going to address them both because they kind of tie together. So one is, why do we gain weight in perimenopause and menopause? And the second is, why does calorie counting, calorie deficit model not work? So again, they both tie in together, so I'm going to address them both. So first one is, why do we gain weight? Because a lot of us, the things we used to do before are no longer working, or some of us have never had a weight issue, and then suddenly we tend to be gaining weight out of nowhere without anything else being changed, right? So reason we gain, I think it's important to have a basic understanding, because then it can help with being frustrated that nothing's working, thinking you're broken, thinking it's inevitable. It's not inevitable at all. Once you understand it, then you can understand that a different approach is required and why that different approach works. So, reason we tend to gain weight in peri and menopause is obviously because of our hormones. So, we experience a decline in estrogen and progesterone at this age. And at the same time, we experience an increase in cortisol. And cortisol is our stress hormone. Cortisol is famously known for putting weight on the belly, that menopause belly, right? So, because we have an increase in the cortisol and the decrease in the progesterone and estrogen, means our body is less resilient to stress. So, when we go on a calorie deficit model, which a lot of us, especially as women, have done in our 20s and 30s, we think that, and it worked, right? But here's the thing, did it work? Because I would argue it did not work. Because if it worked, we would lose the weight on it once and we would be fine for the rest of our lives. But for 95% of people who lose weight on a calorie deficit model, you gain it back, which means it does not work. And the calorie deficit model, excuse me, interestingly enough, there was a woman that wrote a book about it, and I think it was like 1940 something. It was the first time anyone had heard of it. It was this one woman's opinion, and it freaking took off. And now everybody was like doing the calorie deficit model, and now so many people have a weight problem and are frustrated and are sick of doing restrictive diets. So here's why it took off, because in theory it makes sense. A calorie deficit model basically means intake less than you burn off. And if you burn off more than you intake, then you're going to have your body use fat as fuel, right? Like, it makes sense in theory. So I get it. And if you want to lose weight, that means have less calories than your body needs, and your body will burn off fat instead. However, this theory is very, very, very flawed for many reasons, but I'll just touch on it briefly today. So one of them is different foods have different reactions on our body. So some foods that we eat can satisfy our hunger hormones. So they signal to us we've had enough to eat, we feel satiated. They feed our gut health, which in large part helps with our metabolism and our hormonal balance. And other foods completely destroy our gut health. They signal our hunger hormones the wrong way. They can tell us we're hungry even when we've had enough to eat. They can not give us the signal that we're full, even if we've eaten 2,000 calories of it. So the theory is very, very flawed all around. It's more about what type of reaction does that food have on your body. So that's the calorie deficit model in a nutshell. Now, how does this apply to weight loss in peri and menopause? So if you recall, our bodies are less resilient to stress. A strict calorie deficit model, our body views that as a stressor. So it's going to actually backfire and have the opposite effect what we wanted, and your body can actually hold on to weight. The other thing is, in theory, let's say that you are eating 1,500 calories a day and you're not losing weight. Based on the calorie deficit model, excuse me, you would say, okay, so I must drop my calories lower, let's say to 1,200. So now there's a 300 calorie balance. So you were eating 1,500, you're not losing weight, so you drop it to 1,200. So in theory, you'd be losing weight, right? But we're not. And the reason is, number one, because it's seen as a stressor on the body, but number two, something called metabolic adaptation. which means our body, in an effort to protect us and as a survival mechanism, will actually lower the rate we're burning to match the amount we're intaking, and this helps us to survive. So if we're eating 1,500 calories and we drop it to 1,200 to try to lose weight and create that calorie deficit, like that energy deficit, our body is going to be like, girl, you're starving. I don't want you to die. So your body is going to lower the rate it burns to match the amount you're eating to 1,200. So it's flawed in so many ways. And particularly repeated calorie deficit diets are really seen as a major stressor to the body. And they can mess up our metabolic system for later and make it not as strong, meaning it gets harder and harder to lose weight over time. So if anything that you get out of this today, number one, please don't, I understand why you would feel frustrated because you're doing all the things you used to do, they're not working. You're thinking, oh my gosh, weight gain is inevitable because these things are no longer working, so I'm completely broken. It's not true. You simply need a different approach. And that approach is, instead of starving your body, we want to nourish it properly to give it the things it needs to support hormonal balance, to support our hunger hormones, to support our gut health. And I'm making it, I think, sound more complicated than it is. It's actually quite simple when you understand it. So we want to nourish our body, not starve our body. And when we do this, it's really taking an inside out approach. And then the excess weight will fall off as a side effect. Cool. I hope that makes sense. Weight gain is not inevitable at this age. I know that you may think otherwise because nothing's working, but it's not true. A simple approach is all that is needed. Now, if you find this interesting, if this clicks for you, if this makes sense, I actually did a masterclass last week on this and several other things. We go a little bit more in depth. Basically how to optimize your hormones for fat burning in peri and menopause. So if you want a copy of that, just comment below replay, or you can send me a DM, a personal DM, just with the word replay, and I will get that out to you. Cool. I hope that makes sense and you're less frustrated, and I hope you have a great day.